Alrighty, guys, got another cracking episode for you today. I've got my good friend Jackson. It's actually his second episode on here. So Jackson's an expert in all things wealth creation. Jackson, mate, thank you so much for jumping on again.
Thanks for having me again, mate. I'm wrangling a couple of dogs here at the moment in the back of my troopy, so I'm going to do my best to keep the production quality high, mate.
Mate, your social media is actually quite good organically because you have that good mix of business, and I also know so much about your life from it. I think you do organic really well.
Thanks, man.
Um, so, mate, congratulations! You bought a property recently,
I
as
did,
well. Such an
yes.
amazing milestone. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I've always gone through an exercise of doing our 20-year roadmap of all of our goals and aspirations, and then I break that down into an annual plan. And so I have all of my goals that I want to achieve every single year, and then I review them monthly. And one of the big ones for us was that through this year, traveling around Australia, we wanted to come back to acreage. We wanted to be able to have a beautiful wooden style home it was in the rainforest that allowed us to have more than 40 acres, that had access to water. And we were pretty open to the locations. We've been looking all since we started on the road over the last 6 months, and we fell in love with Cairns. And we found a 70-acre property that's a pole home in the middle of the World Heritage listed rainforest. We've got 2 kilometres of river frontage. It ticked all the boxes for us. So we jumped on it, and it settles on the 5th of October. So it's very exciting to be able to practice what we preach and also see all of
Yep.
the goals actually come to reality. So,
Mate, it looks stunning. The overheads. I want to come up there and have a few beers with you one day.
please,
Um,
mate.
And guys, so the reason why I got Jackson on is look, I think as business owners, everyone, and I think I'm part of the problem, but everyone's focused on how many leads can I get, how many sales can I get, how many clients. And Josh Buster actually had Josh on last week, talked about how Jackson helped him make a like a 20-year vision and roadmap for his wealth. And I was kind of laughing, Jackson, with Josh, and I was like, I don't even know what I'm eating in the next 20 minutes. But I think it's a level of fitness professionals what we have to think about to be able to, do all these really cool things in our life to create wealth for our future, families, and to have a really safe life. So, Jackson, mate, I think when we're kind of talking before, you like the really big point, because I know with you guys, you do like the wealth creation, but you also do a little bit of business coaching to help get people profitable. Is that kind of the first step everyone needs to hit?
Yeah, so our kind of system is very simple. And the reality is most of our clients actually work with a business coach. And what we kind of do is we approach it from the complete opposite angle to a business coach. We work with the individual to map out all of their goals, dreams, and aspirations over 20 years. And it sounds crazy, and it's often a bit out of the comfort zone for most people. But once we actually go through the exercise and think that big picture, we get extreme clarity. And what that allows us to do is to reverse engineer that into an action plan. So I can say to all of my clients, hey, Jimmy, if you want to buy this house in the Northern Beaches, you want to pay it off in 5 years, you want to send your kids to a nice private school, you want to travel first class, you want to drive the nice car, all of these things, this is exactly how much income you need to earn. And this is what you need to do with that income. Then we
Yep.
say, okay, let's turn that into a profit target. Then we reverse engineer that into a revenue target, and then we reverse engineer that into KPIs. And then that allows the
Yep.
business coach to be able to say, hey, this is how we're going to get you those leads. This is what we're going to do with your sales process. So it allows us to have an end-to-end holistic roadmap. And it's game changing, because if I can connect all of the outcomes that you're really passionate about to the activity you've got to do in your business, it makes it a whole lot easier. Because let's face it, no one gives a shit about leads, right?
Yep.
It's a means to an end. So if you can connect the means to the end, then that makes the journey a whole lot easier.
Yeah, mate, and I absolutely love it because, like, I'm really close friends with Dan Henderson, and I won't say publicly what his amount is, but he knows to the dollar how much he needs to earn, take home every single month. And when I chat to him about like his big picture in business and life, he has extreme clarity. Like he knows the exact number. So I think just having that roadmap for people, and I don't think even myself saying this, I don't even know what I want to do in 20 years in terms of wealth, which is why I've kind of got connected with you guys like a lot more and things like that. And mate, I guess it would be like a little bit of different thinking. If someone wants to map out their 20 years when they do it with your team, does that take like a couple of hours or a week or a month, or how does that kind of work?
Yeah, it's an ongoing process. And to give you a bit of background, I created this because I really struggled with deferring gratification, right? I'm the type of person I want everything yesterday, and I don't want to
Yep.
sacrifice anything in the process. And when I was taught wealth building, it was always about shrink yourself wealthy. You need to eat cornflakes for dinner, and you can't go and get
Oh, yeah.
coffees out, and you can't go out on the weekend. You need to sacrifice to build wealth. And I'm like, fuck that. I don't want to sacrifice. I want to live an amazing lifestyle. I want to have my cake and eat it too. So then no, nothing was out there about this. So I said, okay, well, if I was going to create a system that allowed me to be able to live an amazing lifestyle and amass amazing levels of wealth and create financial freedom, what would that look like? And what I
Yep.
realized is that most people are one-dimensional planners, right? They plan to one thing at a time. So, okay, I want to buy a house on the northern beaches, right? And then
Yep.
all of a sudden, then another goal comes into vision. Oh, well, I also want to go on a holiday, or I need a new car, or I want to do this, or I want to do that. And because you haven't planned for that other thing, you now need to make a scarcity based decision.
Yep.
So we need to think abundantly. So this is where the 20-year roadmap came from. What if we mapped out all of our goals, dreams, and aspirations, both lifestyle and financial, over 20 years? And if we do that with complete clarity and reverse engineer that backwards, it leaves nothing unturned, right? All opportunities have been mapped out. And the first time I did this, I stared at a blank page for hours.
I can
And
imagine.
it's only been through constant iteration. So we get our clients to redo this exercise every 90 days. And even when I do this, it shifts and changes. So
Yep.
I evolve my goals and I refine it, and then I review my roadmap every 90 days. So every 90 days, I'm getting more clarity, it's getting more accurate, and I basically achieve 95% of every goal that I set.
Yep. I absolutely love it that reviewing. So especially like with a 20-year vision as such, is it's okay if it changes, but how like does it change like radically, or it's just very small changes? Like because my gut's telling me if it radically changes, probably something significant has happened in that time.
Correct.
But say with your journey, is it just what I say is like I write my vision every morning. I've got like a page I review, and it's kind of just making it perfect
Yeah.
every 90 days when I view it. Is it kind of the same with how you do your process?
Yeah, it's the same thing. And I find that for most people, you're right, you hit the nail on the head. Unless they've got something significant that's changed in their life or their business, their goals just evolve and shift and change a little bit. I think the big milestones that result in significant shifts is marriage and separation, children, acquisition of significant assets, and obviously things like COVID, big
Yep.
macro events that really shake us to our core. And even in my example, my first original plan was I wanted to buy a house on a big block of land around Hornsby that was on backing onto
Okay.
the national park in Ku-ring-gai. And it was similar. But then once I realized that COVID happened, I'm like, hey, I could be anywhere in Australia. Why do I want to pay $3 million for a house that's not even going to get me everything that I want? Like, there's no such thing as a 70-acre property in Hornsby, right?
Yep.
Um, it's not going to. I'm going to be compromising. So then I said, okay, great. Well, let's expand it, and then expanded to the Hunter, and then it expanded to the mid north coast, and then now it's expanded to Cairns, and we found what we wanted. And here's the funny thing: we've got a 70-acre property that ticked all of our goals. It's going to be our forever home. That's going to allow me to create an amazing studio. That's going to be a retreat center for our clients. That's going to do everything that we ever want. And we paid $830,000.
No way. That's crazy.
Exactly.
Yeah, mate. It's really funny. I hope with sometimes we'll probably talk about privately about my goals, but it's something I'm really thinking about on the beaches because even so guys, I live in Manly. Jackson is around the beaches where his company's based, but properties here for 2.6 you get something that you're not happy with. Like it's kind of like a knockdown job.
Yeah.
It's very bizarre compared to other places around Australia and things like that.
And it's crazy, right? And this is the reason why we developed this exercise because my business partner Sam, he's got a beautiful home in Coleroy Plateau, and he's done very well. He wants to have a big Italian family with a million kids running around, so his goals are very different. But by facilitating the 20-year roadmap, we can get really clear on that. And the big issue
Yep.
for many of us is that we often set a goal and we don't have an opportunity to review it, and then we end up spending $2.7 million for a mistake. And that's an
Yep.
expensive mistake, right? Like we've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars in costs getting into the property. To sell it's going to cost us an arm and a leg. So it's like Warren Buffett's rule number one is don't lose money. And then rule number two is don't forget rule number one. And it's about using this roadmap as a means to make sure that we don't make financial mistakes, because they're hugely costly.
Yeah. Yeah, no, they really can be, especially with like properties and then selling them and stamp duty and all that kind of stuff.
Correct.
Now, mate, I guess with the first point, being profitable. I know you've worked with a lot of fit pros, like Roy and Josh. I was just talking to Ian as well. Run incredible businesses with your help. When you're getting them to focus on profit, I know it's really hard, and we could talk about it for hours. But is there a couple of things that you try and get them to focus on that make them more profitable than the average gym? Because you work with some of the better fitness clients, and they run incredible businesses with your help.
Yeah, the first thing is profit is not the goal. It's the means to an end, once again. And what I do is I presuppose the goal that happens when profit exists. So, for
Yep.
example, a conversation with many of these guys, whether it be Brian, whether it be Josh, whether it be Ian, we talk about the property that comes next. So, okay, let's talk about the dream home. Okay, so in
Yep.
order for you to buy that dream home, this is how much income you need to earn. So then it presupposes the profit. Okay, you want to buy a commercial premises. So you want to be able to have your own location so you can continue to grow your business and have a place that you call yours and not pay dead rent to a landlord that could turf you out at the end of your lease. Well,
Yep.
okay, what do you need to earn? How much profit do you need in order to achieve that outcome? Because once again, profit doesn't matter. And there's a million excuses that us as entrepreneurs can come up with of why we don't show profit and that we want to reinvest back into doing something else. But if we can presuppose that profit exists in order to achieve a specific goal or objective, people rally to the occasion. And
Yep.
it's the system that we use for all of our clients, whether it be getting into their home, buying their commercial premises, or creating passive income. It's always about getting clear on the goal, reverse engineering it backwards. And what I find is that fit pros are amazing at working towards a plan. The thing that they
Yep.
miss is the plan. Once they've got the plan, they're like a dog with a bone and they just make it happen. They've got a knack for just following it because it's what they do every day,
Yep.
right?
Yep. Mate, I just love your level of thinking, and it's something I've been like pondering a lot of. You see all the Facebook ads of people driving Lamborghinis and Ferraris and having those amazing houses on Miami Beach, and I'm sure your feed's full of them.
Yeah.
And it's something I journal on a lot of, like how much like revenue or take home income is enough, and what do you truly need to be happy and reach your goals.
Yep.
And it's such a really, really deep question. Without the 20-year roadmap, you kind of have no idea. And people, I think, run or follow the wrong direction, especially social media makes it so bad where they feel they need a seven-figure business. And it's like, what? No one, everyone who has a seven-figure business actually means nothing. It's like, what's your take-home income and what are you going to do with that income? And when's a good time just to sit back and go, hey, this is what I want for me to hit my 20-year goals. But I don't think many people think like that. Do you kind of agree?
I agree with you 100%. Ego gets in the way and ego is the enemy. And I talk a lot about this because I fell into this trap for myself. When I was younger, I was very egotistical and I was very ego driven. I felt like I had something to prove. And
Yep.
I tried to prove that with material possessions. Yeah, I drove the AMG Mercedes and I wore the expensive suits and I went on the high ticket holidays and had all of these experiences and wore the expensive watches and all of these things. And what I come to realize is that every time I'd achieve that goal and I'd always achieve it, there was an emptiness inside. And to be fair, no one
Yep.
else gave a fuck. No one else cared.
Yep.
No one was impressed. No one said, "Oh, Jackson, wow, I can't believe you're driving that amazing car and wearing that great watch or wearing that expensive suit." No one cares. So then when I had this epiphany moment and I then used this exercise to be able to get clear on what do you really want, Jackson? What's really important to you? And
Yep.
don't worry about impressing everyone else. The only person that you need to impress is yourself. What makes you impressed? What makes you happy? And then through this, I then started realizing, okay, well, I actually want really simple things. Get rid of the Mercedes. It's uncomfortable anyway. Drive the Troopy. Go around Australia.
Yep.
Do all of these things that actually fill your cup and make you happy. And ultimately, at the end of the day, like I don't care if you want to drive a Maserati or a Lamborghini, right? That's fine. But as long as you've really asked yourself, is this what you really want, or are you just trying to keep up with the Joneses? Because I see
Yep.
so many people out there trying to make money by sacrificing time and experiences to buy things that they don't care about to impress people that they don't even like.
Yeah. Mate, we have such a similar belief on that. I bought like a Range Rover a couple of years ago, and I thought it would make me happy. And I honestly was like, hey, I worked really hard and I achieved this, and it was kind of like a status thing, right?
Yeah.
Um, the first couple of weeks, people jump in, they're like, yeah, really nice car, they cruise around, but after about a 3 week period, it was just a car again, and it didn't fundamentally change who I am. I still had the same issues when I woke up in the morning and the same business. And I recently sold it just because I was like, I don't even like this car. But I guess that's a journey people have to go through to kind of like realize. But you know,
Yeah.
if you can know that before you go and spend like 120,000 on a car, you'll save a hell of a lot of money, because selling that thing for me was a nightmare.
Definitely,
Yeah.
100%. And I've made so many of those expensive mistakes over the years, mate. And I try and impart my wisdom and my experiences to help my clients not have to make the same expensive mistakes, and use these exercises and these frameworks to get really clear on what really matters to them, and more importantly, why it matters, so that they can better evaluate their financial choices and lifestyle choices that get them closer to the dream life that they really want, that's going to keep them fulfilled, keep them happy.
Yeah, and then so with the 20 years, so you make your 20-year roadmap, and then your business is what helps you facilitate to reach those goals. So, you
Correct.
know, people know how much, I guess, a salary they need to take, plus the profits and what they're doing, which is probably more important of what they actually do with their take-home income. Um, and with that advice, I know. So you bought some properties. I know Dan mentioned you do some stuff with like bonds and things like that. Is there kind of like a roadmap that you give your clients to build wealth, or is it customized on the individual and their maybe family and things like that?
Yeah, great question. So what we help our clients do is we help them implement what we call the wealth mastery machine. So it's a system that we've developed that allows them to control the flow of money from their business into their household, allow them to live a great lifestyle, but also make sure that they maintain their surplus and allocate that automatically. So essentially, they're not waiting until they've lived their life and then saving what's left. And I'm trying to use that kind of that pay yourself first methodology. So
Yep.
quite simply, first thing we do is we implement profit first in their business, and we
Yep.
create a systematic way of them paying themselves a fixed income and distributing their profits on a regular basis, ideally monthly, to make sure that they can
Okay.
get consistency of cash flow into their household. The
Yep.
second thing we do is we set up what we call the hub structure, which is a way for us to be able to make sure that we use a similar methodology to profit first, but in your house, allowing you to pay all
Okay.
your fixed expenses, live a great lifestyle, save for bills and things that sneak up on you, and also put money aside for holidays, making sure that we've accounted for all of your lifestyle expenses with no surprises. And
So
then,
the oh, sorry to cut
yep,
you off. So
please,
the hub's more personal, is it?
exactly,
Like your food, your groceries, the plethora of subscriptions people probably have to Netflix and stuff like that. The
exactly.
hub's
So
personal. Okay.
covers all the personal stuff, and everything's accounted for, and it's basically all automated, so you don't need to do anything about transferring money left, right, and center when you've got to pay bills. And then
Yep.
lastly, we've got the investment operating system, where we've got surplus and we've already determined how much needs to go to paying off debt if debt exists, how much goes into the share market
Yep.
using index funds and ETFs, and how much goes to be set aside to acquire more property. And really,
Okay.
that's all we try and do. There's only three ways to make money in this world, predictably, Jimmy. There's business, there's property,
Yep.
and there's shares. And we help our
Okay.
clients accumulate wealth in all three. And of course, we've got some clients who like to speculate a little bit on Bitcoin and other stuff like that, but we only do so with play money once we've got a really solid financial foundation in place.
Yeah, Dan mentioned that. He said there's like a percentage that he has in his expenses that you can do whatever you want to do with, but it can be really high risk stuff as well.
Yeah,
But it's all like he's very calculated with it all. If that
exactly.
makes sense.
And that's what we need.
Yeah.
We need confidence in our system to make sure that everything is working as it should. Because what I find is that most entrepreneurs, because of their inconsistency of cash flow and their drawings and having a shitty household cash flow structure, they have no real clarity around their surplus of what money is theirs and what money can be invested. So they're tactical. They're like, oh, okay, I'm going to put $1,000 into investments this month, and I'm going to pull some money back because I forgot about this bill. And it's just ad hoc. And what we're not
Yep.
doing is we're not creating a system. And the best businesses work on systems, and the best wealth creation strategies work on systems as well.
Mate, I absolutely love it. And Mate, when with the type of business owner you guys work with, do you work with people just starting out in business, or they usually have an established business, or do you just work with massive businesses? What kind of level should people be at to start thinking about, their 20-year roadmap, about using profit first? What do you what do you believe around that?
Yeah, I'd probably say the sweet spot is once people have proven their business model, so they're doing at least 10K a month. I think our median client's probably doing about 600K a year. So they're around about
Yep.
that 50K per month mark. But we've worked with clients that are up to nine-figure businesses, because the
Yeah.
principles are universal. What I come to realize is, Jimmy, is that most people don't focus on these things early enough. They're like, oh, I just need
Yep.
to hit that next revenue target and then I'm going to deal with my wealth. And I've had clients who have $100 million businesses who haven't accumulated a dollar in wealth because they've followed that mantra. And it's now they're playing catch up, because what I often find is that the higher your income goes or the bigger your business gets, there's always that next excuse to get in the way of wealth building. The sooner you can
Yep.
start it, the faster you can accelerate your path to financial freedom.
Yeah, and I think there's no time like the present to start thinking about what the future looks like. I think for me, I only started to think about this like a year ago when I thought of having kids and things like that. But definitely when we're kind of getting ready for the episode today, I was like, on the last episode, I feel like I wish I had you in my corner 3 years ago, because my life would look radically different. And, that's life, or the way we look at it. But I think everyone as fitness professionals and also as fathers and mothers, if they can start to think about that for their future generations and have an amazing life, would be something that you need to dive into pretty quickly.
100%. And look, there's a huge opportunity cost here, because most people don't realize that, hey, if I do a particular thing now, it seems relatively small in right now, but compounded over the course of 10, 20, 30 years, the opportunity here is huge. And like, let's say, for example, on average, let's say our clients pay themselves about 100 grand a year, right? And on average, using that wealth mastery machine system, we increase their surplus by 15 to 20%. So let's assume that it's 15 grand, right?
Yep.
And as a result of that, if we compound that at a rate of, say, average share market's done 10% per year, and we do that over 20 years, that is now $1 million of opportunity cost just by implementing this one strategy over the course of the rest of your working life.
Yeah, I love the compound interest calculator that you can. I think it's like a government site, but I'm very big on, like, for my kids, right? I really want to have kids, so I map out like how much money do I have to put in my kids' account every year to be able to get them a property when they're 18.
Beautiful.
And it's funny because I wish I did it for my life when I was younger, but now you think with perspective on everything. Because compound interest, I think it's Buffett. Hey, it's like the eighth wonder of the world. Is that what he
Exactly.
says?
That's it. It is the eighth wonder of the
It's
world. And it's a snowball. It starts really small. And it's just by continuing to have that system and being able to repeat it over time that we allow this snowball to continue to roll. And like, just to give you an example, that opportunity is $1 million over 20 years. But if we expand that to 30 years, that's now 3 million. So by adding an extra
crazy.
10 years, that's 3x the outcome. So it just goes to show that if you keep the money there, the money is made in the waiting.
Yeah, and it's a kind of, you've got to get started sooner rather than later.
Yeah,
Because if you miss 5 or 6 years of that compound interest, it just gets like, it just goes up that little graph. It's crazy.
that's it.
I
That's it.
always like to put in like 40 years because I figure I'll stop working full time when I'm about 70 and hopefully do some boards. Who knows? Maybe we're doing something together.
Love it.
But I always do 40 years on mine. And it's just so powerful. And it really changes the way you think about not what you can do this year, but in 40. It's the most beautiful graph. I love it. I probably check
I
it out
agree.
like once a month.
And look, I think it works really well. But for people like me who are really short-term focused, 40 years is a long time. So I try for all of my clients to create them a roadmap that allows them to create true financial freedom in 10 years or less. Because I think most
Yep.
people, even if like you're late, like we've got clients who start working with us in their 50s and 60s, right? And they haven't done anything for their entire working life. And they're like, oh, it's too late for me. No, it's not. If we've got a plan and we can stick to it for 10 years or less, then we can create financial freedom as long as you're prepared to do the work. And once we've got the roadmap to follow. So once again, we can hope that we can do this for 40 years, but if we can have that light at the end of the tunnel sooner, I think that's critically important.
Mate, I love it. And Jackson, mate, thank you so much for coming on today. So, guys, I've been chatting to Jackson maybe to pop on every 4 to 6 weeks. So, I really, really appreciate just changing the level of thinking to our audience, my friend. If anyone wanted to chat with you or maybe connect, where would be the best place to find you?
Yep. So reach out to me on Facebook to search for Jackson Millan. Add me as a friend. I'm always producing content around this stuff. I always try and release a new idea every day just to help you level up your financial tools. If you want to get access to my free books, a whole heap of worksheets, calculators, you can join our Facebook group. So just go into my bio in the cover photo. There's a link there. And we'll also include that link to that 40-point performance scorecard again. So it's the top 40 things that are getting in the way of you creating financial freedom. It'll help you work out what's the low-hanging fruit for you to push that needle forwards and get that score cranking. Average score is about 18 out of 40, which is a little bit scary, but we can typically help people add at least 10 to their score in 30 days or less.
Mate, absolutely love it. Thank you so much for coming on. Hopefully, we'll have a chat again next month at some stage.
I'm looking forward to it, mate.